Chapter 13, Prakriti Purusha Viveka Yoga, the yoga of differentiation between matter and consciousness. Vanchitam amritam yatu Sri Rupa Raghunathayo Tadane Trutileshamyaha Sahatena Narasingha Pachadakari Siddhanta Sarasvati Samasama Bhaktivedanta Sishyasa Vande Swami Narasingha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Verse 1. Arjuna Uvacha Prakritam Purisham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetra Ganam Mevacha Etad Veditum Ichame Ganam Jnanam Cha Kesava. Arjuna said, O Kesava, I wish to know about material nature, Prakriti, the enjoyer, Purusha, the field, the knower of the field, knowledge, and the object of knowledge. Verse 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Kanteya Kshetram Iti Abhijate Itadyo Veti Tam Prahu Kshetragna Iti Tadvidaha. Bhagavan Sri Krishna replied, O son of Kunti, this body is known as the field, and one who knows this field is said by the wise to be the knower of the field. Verse 3. Setra jam chapimam vidi sarvak sektre shubharata setra sekjadnayorganam yatajganam matamama. You should know that I am the knower of all fields, O descendant of Bharat. I consider the knowledge of the field and its knower to be real knowledge. Anuvritti commentary by His Divine Grace Jagad Swami Bhakti Gaurava Narasingha Maharaj. The basis of knowledge, namely the ability to differentiate between matter, consciousness, and superconsciousness, will further be explained in this chapter. In the last few centuries, Western scientific understanding suggests that consciousness arises out of an inexplicable combination of material elements. In other words, they conclude that the body is the self. Bhagavad Gita, however, considers such an understanding to be ignorance. Without understanding the difference between material nature, Prakriti, and the self, Setrajna, who is the conscious knower of the body, there is no basis of real knowledge. Both are distinct from one another, and one who understands this is truly learned. The material body, composed of the three subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego, and the five gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space, is known as the field. The indwelling consciousness is known as the knower of the field, and the superconsciousness situated within all bodies and within the individual consciousness is the knower of all fields of activity. This is the subject of this chapter, upon knowing which one becomes liberated from material bondage. Verse 4. Taksetram yachcha yadrikcha yat vikari yatascha yata Sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shrinu. Now hear from me in brief about what that field is, what constitutes it, what are its transformations, its origin, and who is the knower of the field and what is his influence. Verse 5. Rishi bir bahuda gitam chando bir vivadai pritaka Brahma sutra padaishchaiva This knowledge has been sung of in many different ways by different sages by the Vedas, and is found in the logically conclusive chapters of the Vedanta Sutras. Verses 6 and 7. Mahabhutan yahankaro buddhiravyaktam evacha indriyani dashaikam cha panchachindriya gocharaha Icharvesha sukham dukam sangatash chetanadriti etakshetram samasena savikaram udahritam. The main elements are the false ego, intelligence, the unmanifest material nature, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hate, pleasure, pain, the gross body, consciousness, and determination. All these elements that are described here are considered to be the field. Verses 8 through 12. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsak santir arjavam acharyo pasanam shocham staryam atma vinigraha indriyardeshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jaravyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam asaktirana bishvanga putradara grihadishu nityam chasama chitatvam istanisto papaptisu maichanaya yogena bhaktiravya picharani vivikta desha sevitam aratirjana samsari adhyatma gyana nityatvam tvatvajanartha darshanam etajanam iti proktam ajanam yadato nyataha. Desirelessness, humility, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, service to the spiritual master, purity, steadiness, self-control, detachment from sense gratification, absence of false ego, perception of the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from attachment to wife, children, and household life, perpetual equanimity in both happy and distressful circumstances, constant and firm devotion unto me, dwelling in a solitary place, free from the desire to socialize with the masses, constant determination in achieving self-realization, and a desire to gain knowledge of the absolute truth. All these qualities have been declared to be knowledge. Anything contrary to this is ignorance. Anuvritti commentary by Srila Guru Maharaj. Here, the greater wealth of knowledge by which a human being can achieve the perfection of life has been described. This detailed explanation by Sri Krishna leads one to an understanding that promotes self-realization and frees one from ignorance. Unfortunately, this knowledge is completely lacking in modern societies, both Eastern and Western. All contemporary fields of knowledge, such as biology, physics, mathematics, and philosophy, lead one to accept the body as the self and to accept gratification of one's mind, intelligence, ego, and senses as the goal of life. Such an understanding is utterly devoid of the real purpose of life, considering that this one life is all in all and that after death there is nothing. The material world is a place of birth, death, old age, and disease, and is sometimes referred to as Mrityu Loka, or the planet of death. Birth, death, old age, and disease are indeed the real problems facing all living beings, regardless of race, nationality, or belief. Any knowledge that does not aim to put an end to these miseries is certainly incomplete at best. There are, of course, medicines, drugs, surgery, and medical machines to ease the pain of birth, slow the old age process, cure some diseases, and prolong the process of dying. But these are only stopgaps or temporary solutions. One should recognize these problems of life and be inquisitive as to where the real solution is to be found. Contrary to modern scientific and philosophical understanding, the Bhagavad Gita says that this one life is not the all in all, and that there's life after death. There was life before coming to this material world, and that life continues eternally. All that really changes is the type of body one has. For the pious, there is future life in higher planets, enjoying celestial pleasures. For the ignorant, there are future sojourns within the bodies of lower species, such as animals or plants. And for the yogi, and for those who cultivate knowledge of consciousness and superconsciousness, there's future existence beyond the material universes in the Vaikuntha planets. Their life is eternal, and all bodies are of the substance known as Sat Chit Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Verse 13. Sneyam yat tat prabhakshami yajnat vamritam ashnute anadi mat param brahma nasatan nasaduchate. I shall now explain the object of knowledge, knowing which one attains immortality. It is subordinate to me and is the eternal supreme Brahman that is beyond material cause and effect. Verse 14. Sarvata panipadam tat sarvatoksik siro mukam sarvata shrutimaloke sarvamamrityatishtati. His hands and feet are everywhere. His eyes, heads, and mouths are everywhere. His ears are everywhere. Thus he exists, pervading all things. Verse 15. Sarvandriya gunabhasam sarvandriya vivarjitam asaktam sarvabrikchaiva nirgunam gunabhoktricha. He illuminates all the senses and their functions, however he is devoid of any material senses himself. He remains detached, and he is the maintainer of all. Although he is devoid of all material qualities, he is the master of all qualities. Verse 16. Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha suksmatvat tadavijneyam durastam chantike chatat. He is situated in all moving and non-moving beings. He is near, yet simultaneously he is far away. Thus, he is most subtle and difficult to fully understand. Verse 17. Avibhaktam chabhuteshu vibhaktam iva chastitam bhutabhatri chatajnenam grasishnu prabhavishnucha. Although it seems that he is divided amongst all living beings, he is in fact undivided. He is to be known as the creator, maintainer, and destroyer. Verse 18. Jyotisham apita jyotis tamasa paramuchate gyanam jnanam janagamyam hridi sarvasha vishtitam. He is said to be the most brilliant of all luminaries beyond darkness. He is knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the aim of all knowledge. Verse 19. Itiksetram tatakyanam jnanam choktam samasataha madbhakta ita vignaya madbhavayo papadyate. Thus, the field of activities, knowledge, and the object of knowledge have been briefly explained. By understanding these, my devotee attains love for me. Anuvritti commentary by Srila Guru Maharaj. As previously mentioned, the absolute truth is known in three phases of realization: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The he of whom Krishna speaks of in these verses as being subordinate to him, yet being the supreme Brahman, refers to the Paramatma. His hands, feet, eyes, and ears are everywhere, and he is situated in the hearts of all living beings. He is all-pervasive throughout the universe. He divides himself to be within all things, yet he himself is not divided or diminished. He remains the complete person. This is stated in the invocation of the Sri Ishopanishad as follows. Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Uchate Purnasha Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The Supreme Person is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this material world, are also perfect and complete. Whatever emanates from the complete person is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete person, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. That was the Sri Ishopanishad. It would seem that the discourse between the theist and the atheist is perpetually in a gridlock. But as mentioned in the previous Anuvritti, the student of Bhagavad Gita does not consider either the so-called theist or the atheist to have complete knowledge. It may even be that sometimes the atheist is more correct in his opinion than the so-called theist. The theist establishes his God, and the atheist, upon examining the statements of the so-called theist, discovers that the God in question is wrathful, vindictive, jealous, vengeful, masochistic, etc. In this instant, we would have to agree with the atheist. There is no such God. However, the atheist then concludes that in the absence of God, the universe and all life within it has come from nothing. Yet he has no experience or proof that something can arise from nothing. His proposal is thus self-defeating. Both God and his non-existence are but misconceptions in the minds of the so-called theist and the atheist. However, the student of Bhagavad Gita knows that the subject matter is not a thesis about God. Bhagavad Gita is a discourse aimed at enlightenment in the absolute truth. The absolute truth contains all things known, knowable, and unknown, before the universe, within the universe, after the universe, and beyond the universe.